Coming up, the Joplin police charge a man with first-degree murder in the shooting death of his 17-year-old daughter.
A little bit of a morning chill in the air when you head out the door, but by the time we get to the afternoon, probably not even wearing the jacket. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
Also, the city of Joplin looks for contingency plans if staff shortages affect services. Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment. Yes. Yeah.
Sorry.
Hey, you're there.
I'm like, yes. Okay, I'm not going to lie to you. Let's revert back to yesterday where I was over at the Skywatch Weather Center and I was telling Carrie, who's behind our camera right now, for those of you that join us normally during the 5 o'clock hour, I just had mental forgetfulness and I was happy over at the Skywatch Weather Center. I was harboring a bad hand. I wasn't thinking about being in front of the weather wall. And so I deserve that this morning when you go, hey, you're there. Yes, I'm actually back at the wall this morning. Just an odd start to the work week. That's what it was. And I'm willing to say that.
It was Monday.
It was. If you trust me, it felt like a Monday. All right.
At least we weren't having like severe technology problems. So that was a good start.
Well, actually, we were.
But I see we have the Joplin Sky.
We were just hiding everything from the Skywatch Weather Center is what we were doing. We were having severe technology problems. But here's the great thing. Yesterday we had a whole bunch of teens, as low as 11 degrees up on the board temperature-wise. Now, while we're still below the freezing mark in many a place throughout the 4 states, not as chilly as what it was yesterday. Let's roll right at the 32-degree mark in Joplin, 25 in Neodesha, 30 in Neosho, and 25 in Miami. Now, as we Tanya Bach? Okay. Okay, it felt like you did just for a second. The ridge of the jet stream will be on the move today. Not a whole lot of movement from yesterday. It was about right there. Now, as it's going to move to the east, that is going to bring us warmer temperatures. And the nice thing is we have no precipitation to worry about. As a matter of fact, by the time we get to Friday, we're going to need a little bit of that rain, but a great looking afternoon. How about mid-50s today? Very reminiscent of yesterday. All sunshine throughout. And then our overnight lows way above the freezing point. Let's just ride those 50s until we get to Friday. And once again, Friday evening, that's when we'll get some rain, and we're going to need it at that point in time. Cold front moves in for the weekend, so get out and enjoy the next 4 days of temps in the 50s.
All right, thanks, Michael. Well, police in Arma, Kansas arrested a woman who they say stabbed a man. Officers were called out for a reported stabbing. When they arrived, they found a man with multiple stab wounds, apparently from a kitchen knife. He did survive. Police arrested a woman at the scene. Formal charges are pending. Joplin police arrest a man accused of killing his teenage daughter. Authorities say Todd Mays shot and killed his 17-year-old daughter during a disturbance at their home on Connor Avenue. Officers on Sunday responded to a call about someone being shot and found the 17-year-old. He was taken to the hospital in critical condition but passed away yesterday morning. Police arrested Mays at the scene. He is charged with first-degree murder and armed criminal action. A building fire in Miami, Oklahoma created so much smoke it could be seen dozens of miles away. Firefighters responded to calls about the fire a little after 9:30 Monday morning, found that the old boater float building engulfed in flames. 10 minutes after they arrived, the front wall collapsed. The building has been vacant for a while, but a friend of the owner says the power was turned on again last week. Coronavirus cases and hospitalizations continue to increase across the area as the Omicron variant takes hold. Officials with Mercy Hospital say they've seen an increase in cases and hospitalizations. However, they're noticing not as many people are needing intensive care services or ventilators. Newton County officials say they've seen a significant increase in COVID cases since Christmas, and that a bigger increase could be on its way.
So we have seen quite a jump in our positive cases over even last week. So I think in the next few days, in the next couple of weeks, we'll probably see a pretty good surge. I'm guessing, looking at the data. But again, what I'm hearing is it's usually mild cases, and I hope that surge will happen and then subside rather quickly.
We spoke with the Jasper County Health Department Director, Tony Moore, who says the latest sewer shed samples taken at the end of December show the Omicron variant is present in Joplin and is beginning to show up in Carthage. Kansas lawmakers kick off their annual session. Tax cuts are expected to be a big issue because the state is flush with cash. The session is also shadowed by redistricting, election year politics, and COVID-19. Both Republican-led legislature and Democratic Governor Laura Kelly are pursuing tax breaks. Lawmakers must redraw the state's political boundaries to account for shifts in population over the last 10 years, and they're likely to consider restrictions on how public schools teach students about race and the influence of racism in U.S. history. Coming up in our next half hour, we'll tell you how Kansas hospitals are asking this legislative body for help as they face overcrowding due to the recent COVID surge in their state. City of Joplin is working on contingency plans in the event they have to reduce transit services because of staffing issues. Officials are considering 4 options. The first would reduce maps from 6 routes per day to 3. The second option would reduce it to 4 routes per day and shorten hours. Another would reduce maps to 3 routes and condense the trolley system to 2 routes. And the fourth option would eliminate the trolley service completely and keep maps at 6 routes per day.
It's difficult to find employees to fill all of our open positions. We've got a lot of opportunities here at the City of Joplin, and so one of the things that we do if we're not able to meet the services or have adequate staffing, we have to make contingency plans.
City will host 2 public meetings about the proposed plans on January 27th if they are not staffed by then. The IRS will begin accepting 2021 individual income tax returns on January 24th. Administration officials are already warning of a frustrating season as the agency grapples with a backlog of returns from previous years. The IRS commissioner says the agency will do everything possible with the resources available. The tax filing season will end on April 18th this year for most people, rather than the usual deadline of April 15th. Because that's when Emancipation Day will be observed in Washington, D.C. It's 5:07.
That was years, plural. No, it was years, plural.
No one can see you winking.
Well, I appreciate. I don't need Uncle Sam knowing I'm winking. Weather trend for today going to lift us up into the mid-50s, a good 10 to 12 degrees warmer than what we'd anticipate for this time of year, right at the freezing point as you walk outside on this Tuesday morning. Not too bad. The wind is going to pick up, at least it's coming in from the south. Elevated fire concerns, humidity dropping down around 35%. We'll roll the 50s all the way till the end of the week.
That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, after a slow start, the Webb City girls basketball team comes soaring back to 500. Can they keep up their hot streak against Joplin? We've got all the details. Plus, speaking of the Cardinals, you'll never guess who showed up to substitute teach at a Missouri elementary school. And we want to know who's the coolest person you've ever met. And we'll tell you about a man who received a genetically modified pig heart and how he's doing after his dramatic surgery. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
Webb City girls basketball team really coming on strong here in the last few weeks. After a 2-5 start, Cardinals have won 3 straight. Back to an even 5-5 on the year. Last night on the road to face Joplin. Got the Eagles in a COC conference opener. Joplin also 500 at 6-6. First quarter, Emma Floyd, elbow, jumper. Joplin up 1 headed into the second. Mia Robbins inbounds to Sammy Mancini. Mancini had 8 points in the first half alone. Then Austin Mickey, bank, good. 6-0 run to open the quarter for Webb City. Cards go up to the break by 2 points. More from Webb in the second. Ripley Shanks getting it done inside. Cardinals extending that lead, but Joplin not going anywhere. Ella Hafer, launch it. Top of the key, we're all tied again. Go to overtime. Webb City able to finish it in OT and win this thing 45-42, the final. In the Big 8 last night, Nevada girls on the road against East Newton. Nevada wins it 48-39. Clara Swearingen, She had 20 points for the Tigers. Maddie Majors had 13. Nevada now 9-3 on the season, including 2-0 in the Big 8 West. Last night, the final night of the college football season, Alabama, Georgia meeting in Indianapolis for the Division I National Championship game. Georgia looking for its first title since 1980. Bama trying for back-to-back championships and its 7th since 2009. Georgia wins this thing 33-18. Now, say what you want about Georgia quarterback Stetson Bennett and the fact that nobody thought that this kid was capable of leading a team to a national championship. But all he did was not only come out after a fumble to begin the second half, Georgia put up 20 points in the fourth quarter alone. 20 points in the fourth quarter alone, as Bennett is your national championship MVP and Georgia your new D1 National Football Champions. They call it Black Monday, NFL football. As always, a few teams firing their head coach the Monday after the regular season concludes. Vikings parted ways with Mike Zimmer. Matt Nagy, he was fired in Chicago. Brian Flores, that was the surprise. He was fired by the Dolphins. In the AFC West on Sunday, the Broncos fired their head coach, Vic Fangio. Fangio had been in Denver for 3 seasons as the Broncos finished with a losing record in all 3 of those, including finishing 4th in the division the last 2 years. Broncos, by the way, have not beaten the division rival Chiefs since 2015. Patrick Mahomes has never lost to them as a starter. Andy Reid was hired as the Chiefs head coach in 2013. In 9 years, KC's won 6 division titles, 2 AFC championships, and a Super Bowl. As for the rest of the division, since Reid was hired in KC, look at this mess. The Chargers are on their 3rd head coach. And if you think 3 head coaches in 9 years, not great, look at the Raiders and Broncos. Denver has had 4 head coaches since 2013. It'll be 5 when they find a new one this offseason. The Raiders, well, we know what a mess that's been. 5 head coaches since 2013. Rich Bisaccia, he's the interim head coach right now. Raiders headed into the playoffs. Who knows if he's going to be around next year? Potentially, Vegas could be on their 6th different head coach if they decide to move on this offseason. So, Chiefs fans, please appreciate what you have with Andy Reid. Still to come on the KOAM Morning News, a fire in Chile burns more than 30 homes to the ground. We'll update any injuries and fatalities and a check on our 7-day forecast when the KOAM Morning News returns.
Here at Show Me Windows and Doors.
Just past 5:17 on this Tuesday morning. Chilly over 7th and Range Line, but actually considerably better than what we had yesterday. 32 degrees, so right at the freezing mark. And we'll talk a little bit about the wind here because we'll see an uptick in that as we work into the afternoon hours. Able to escape any of the teens or 11, 12 degree temperatures that we had from yesterday, but still ranging anywhere from about 25 there in Miami, 32 in Carthage and Monette, and 30 right now in Chanute. But that's about 15 degrees better than what we had yesterday morning as we're starting to see the cold front work its way off the Atlantic coast right there and be replaced by some warmer January temperatures. The Skywatch Storm Tracker with the ridge waiting for this thing to push off to the east. That'll actually keep us warm for the next several days and really no worries on the Skywatch Storm Tracker. Nary a cloud in a January sky. Just a gorgeous morning that'll eventually bring us sunshine with sunrise at 7:32 and back up into the mid-50s once again today. We'll see that south wind pick up to about 20 miles per hour. And then overnight, not really going to die down. It'll still be there at about 10 to 15 with the humidity dropping down to about 30%. Of course, we'll have the elevated fire risk as well. Luckily, we'll be able to stay out of that gusting area of the 30-mile-an-hour range. We'll probably top out around 25 miles per hour. 7-day forecast with abnormally warm January temperatures all the way into Friday. Friday night brings us a little rainfall that will be needed by then and cooler temperatures over the weekend. Time now to turn our attention to the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll. Students at a Clayton, Missouri elementary school got a big league surprise. Okay, you need a substitute teacher. You got your PE program. What are you going to do? Well, you bring in a Gold Glover from the St. Louis Cardinals, evidently. Holden Kurwicki has the story.
Like many schools across the country, the start of the second semester has been a bit of a struggle at Merrimack Elementary in Clayton.
Last week was a challenge, just mostly, we had a lot of kids out, but it's also the staffing perspective. It's, I think that's sometimes the part that gets overlooked.
But when Principal Patrick Fisher needed someone to pinch hit for PE,
being a substitute science teacher or math teacher, even at that level, would be above my pay grade.
he was able to find an all-star sub to cover all the bases.
Yeah, we introduced him as a sub, as a guest teacher. And, and so they were all like, they were wearing masks and he doesn't have a uniform on. So it's kind of like, wait a second, who is this?
The man behind the mask was none other than Gold Glove center fielder Harrison Bader.
It's always just so much fun engaging, kids at that age and seeing how their mind works and everything.
Instead of asking Bader about the game he plays for a living, the students at Merrimack showed the Cardinals standout a game they created themselves.
There wasn't a hesitation from him just to hop right in and get in there and mix it with the kids.
In the game that they played, they had a lot more success than I did. So, I've had a lot more success on the field playing in front of the St. Louis fans. So
they are still going through a lockout. Are we going to have a temporary career change or anything, or is this kind of a fun one day only type thing?
Definitely not going to have a temporary career change. It was nice to be in St. Louis and not have to worry about which righty throwing 100 was trying to take my lunch that day.
While Bader may have better success on the baseball diamond, Fisher says he's always welcome to rejoin the ranks of the Merrimack faculty.
And it really is going to be one of those things our kids remember, whether it's just remembering the memory or a couple of the hats that he might have signed for some of our students while he was there too.
If there are any substitute teacher openings, let me know.
Now, granted, I wouldn't expect elementary school students to know who it was, but even before I did the story, as soon as I saw that the gentleman had longer hair, I said, oh, that's Harrison Bader. I know that's got to be Harrison Bader. Our question for you this morning on the Insta poll: coolest person, we didn't say famous, we said coolest person you've ever met. Could be an athlete, maybe a movie or TV star, a musician, maybe perhaps a writer. You can log on to our Facebook page, KOAM News Now. You can go directly to the poll, koamnewsnow.com/vote. And we've got our QR code. If you have your phone handy, you just snap a picture of that. It will deliver you to the Insta poll. We'll get to some of your results here later in the show. Come back with Health Watch right after this.
Topping Health Watch this morning. So far, so good for a Maryland man who just had an organ transplant using a pig's heart. Blood donations are urgently needed now. According to the American Red Cross and two other organizations, the U.S. blood supply is at a dangerously low level. Surging COVID-19 cases, severe weather, declines in donor turnout, canceled blood drives, and staffing issues are all contributing to the shortage. Plus, donated blood has a short shelf life and supplies must be constantly replenished. Centers across the country are reporting less than 1 day's supply of certain types of blood. Type O positive is given to patients more than any other type. So if you have O positive blood, your donation is most needed. Luckily, it's also the most common blood type, and you can schedule an appointment to donate at redcrossblood.org. Back to that man and his new heart. David Bennett was suffering from a terminal heart disease and had to have the surgery to save his life. He said he knew it was a shot in the dark, but that it was his last choice. University of Maryland Medicine says 57-year-old's medical history made him ineligible for a human heart or a heart pump. Food and Drug Administration gave an emergency authorization for the surgery on New Year's Eve. Pig heart valves have long been transplanted into humans, but this is the first time ever that a full pig's heart has been used. It was genetically modified to remove 3 genes from the donor pig that are responsible for rejection. 6 human genes that control the immune response were inserted. We wish him the best. Los Angeles County passes the 2 million mark for confirmed COVID-19 cases since the start of the pandemic. The LA Department of Public Health says COVID-19 hospitalizations have hit a high not seen since February of 2021. Los Angeles County is the most populous county in the U.S. It has reported nearly 28,000 COVID-19 deaths. Overall, more than 835,000 people in the U.S. have died. Meanwhile, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says nearly 2/3 of eligible people in the U.S. are fully vaccinated. Well, closer to home, there's currently a backlog to get a free COVID-19 at-home testing kit through the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services. Orders are paused until Wednesday. Marina Silva spoke with state officials about the high demand.
The program to offer free COVID-19 at-home testing kits started in May, but demand has soared since then.
Only about 6,000 were ordered between May and mid-December. And then, like I said, the holiday season picked up and we immediately hit that 15,000 order.
In the first 4 days of January, 15,000 tests were ordered. Now after Wednesday, only 500 tests will be able to be ordered per day. That's to allow the vendor to catch up. Once the limit is reached, you'll have to check back the next day for availability. Now the website has specific instructions on how to use these tests. One of them being it needs to be sent out through FedEx, not a third-party vendor. If you live in a more rural area, finding a FedEx facility might be harder, but there are solutions to that.
There is an option, and it's available on our website, to do a pickup or schedule a pickup from FedEx to pick that up from you or a location. So you can check into that option.
A few weeks ago, Governor Parsons said there was no shortage of COVID-19 tests in the state. Now that's partly true. There's no shortage of PCR tests, but the other two tests there is a shortage of.
The state of Missouri is not short on tests. You may have a problem getting one because of the lines and just because of staffing issues and things like that, but there's no shortage of tests in this state.
We're not seeing the shortage on that side as we are with the antigen testing supplies. So those are the ones where people were used to getting them over the counter at their retailer, and they're having trouble finding them that way.
Reporting in Jefferson City, I'm Marina Silva.
Remember, there is a limited supply of Missouri tests available each day. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. Coming up, the Joplin police charge a man with first-degree murder in the shooting death of his 17-year-old daughter.
Right at the freezing mark for most of the Midwest. By the time we get to the afternoon, though, we're going to be talking about abnormally warm January temperatures, the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
Also, the city of Joplin looks for contingency plans if staff shortages affect services. Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5:30. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment. But first, I want to hear more about these abnormally warm temperatures.
Okay, sunrise is 7:32. We got to get there first.
We got to get there, but that just excited me. I'm sorry.
No, it's going to be it's going to be a great week, and right now, hanging right at the freezing point. This will be the last time, really, until we get from Saturday night into Sunday morning, that we're going to have to worry about that 32-degree mark. Before that, we're going to be rolling overnight lows, Tanya, that are going to be 35, 36 degrees.
Nice.
And consider, you go, wow, that's chilly. Okay, get it. It's also the middle of January. It's kind of hard to complain about that. We range anywhere right now from about 25 to 32 degrees. 32 is exactly where we stand right now in Joplin, 30 in Chanute. Let's roll 25 in Miami, 31 in Fort Scott. Now, the ridge of the jet stream, it is finally going to move today. It kind of lingered over Utah yesterday. It'll begin to make its eastwardly push, and as it does, that means blue skies, sunshine, and abnormally warm temps. We should be about 45 degrees this time of year. We'll be ranging to about 55 to 56 for the rest of the work week. Get up today, mid-50s, whole bunch of sunshine. Now, of course, we're going to have to fight just a little bit of wind. A little breezier than yesterday. We'll go about 20 miles per hour coming out of the south. Overnight, die down just a little bit, 10 to 15 miles per hour. But as Tanya and I were talking about, those temperatures well above 32 degrees. And here we go. We can just be able to roll this all the way until the weekend right there. Now, Friday, we are going to need some of that rain because Tuesday through Thursday, sunshine, warm temps, and humidity dropping down to around 30%. Tanya, I know people are trying to get rid of those Christmas trees. Not the best week for burning them outside. Going to reiterate that all week long.
All right, good to know. All right, thanks, Michael. Police in Arma, Kansas arrest a woman who they say stabbed a man. Officers were called out for a reported stabbing. When they arrived, they found a man with multiple stab wounds. apparently from a kitchen knife. He did survive. Police arrested a woman at the scene. Formal charges are pending. Joplin police arrest a man accused of killing his teenage daughter. He's now charged with murder. Authorities say Todd Mays shot and killed his 17-year-old daughter during a disturbance at their home on Connor Avenue. Officers on Sunday responded to a call about someone being shot and found the 17-year-old. She was taken to the hospital in critical condition, but passed away yesterday morning. Police arrested Mays at the scene. He's charged with first-degree murder and armed criminal action. A burning building in Miami, Oklahoma created enough smoke to be seen for miles. Firefighters responded to calls about the fire a little after 9:30 Monday morning and found the old boater float building engulfed in flames. 10 minutes after they arrived, the front wall collapsed. The building had been vacant for a while, but a friend of the owner says the power was turned on again last week. In response to a plea from hospitals last week, Kansas Governor Laura Kelly issued 2 executive orders under a disaster declaration. They're designed to ease some of that burden with the hope of lawmakers will act. Some Republican leaders indicate they are willing to consider something. Sean Lodging tells us what is being considered as they have a 2-week deadline before the declaration expires.
As the Kansas legislature bangs in, the state is dealing with an exponential rise in COVID-19 cases.
Some overcrowding going on in hospitals right now. They definitely need the relief. So as long as we're not going too far, we're not shutting businesses down.
The 2 executive orders issued by Governor Laura Kelly last week are getting bipartisan support. The first applies to hospitals relaxing certain requirements, including some staff to do additional duties without supervision when it's normally required, and to allow medical students to work or volunteer in situations where they are suited. The second relaxes some of the licensing requirements needed to work in long-term care facilities.
Help shore up the healthcare systems, make sure that the staff is able to do the work they need to do, and continue to care for the people of Kansas.
Some in Republican leadership and members say they're seeing benefits in working these EOs into law. So in the future, when there's similar situations, the ability to respond is there.
Very reasonable. They don't go too far. I think when we talk to the hospitals, this is something they need.
Nobody wants to be in a state of emergency any longer than we need to be. And so if we could codify that into law, assuming they make sense.
Representative John Carmichael, a Democrat from Wichita, says these are good ways to deal with the immediate problem, but having them in law indefinitely, he says, raises concern since these deal with the licenses for people providing important and critical care.
We should move slowly. We passed, for example, Senate Bill 40 in a rush because we had to somehow be able to extend the state of emergency, and we did a poor job.
Lawmakers add this is an issue they can't ignore.
When the rubber meets the road, hospitals are telling us that they're beyond capacity and they need resources and help, and they need us to set the politics aside.
At the State House, Sean Logging, Eyewitness News.
City of Joplin is working on contingency plans in the event they have to reduce transit services because of staffing issues. Officials are considering 4 options. The first would reduce maps from 6 routes per day to 3. A second option would reduce it to 4 routes per day and shorten hours. Another would reduce maps to 3 routes and condense the trolley system to 2 routes. And the fourth option would eliminate the trolley service completely and keep maps at 6 routes per day.
Employees to fill all of our open positions. We've got a lot of opportunities here at the City of Joplin, and so one of the things that we do if we're not able to meet the services or have adequate staffing, we have to make contingency plans.
City will host 2 public meetings about the proposed plans January 27th if they are not staffed by then. Let's take a look at our forecast.
Sunrise at 7:32, and after the glow cloud makes an appearance, we'll eventually rise from the freezing point all the way up into the mid-50s. Going to be a tad bit windy coming in from the south. Gusts up to 20-25 miles per hour. Elevated fire concerns with the low humidity in a 7-day forecast with dry and abnormally warm January weather all the way through Friday.
That's a look at our top news stories. Coming up this half hour in the KOAM Morning News, we meet a pair of alpacas that escaped their enclosure and take a tour of the neighborhood. Plus, talks between Russia and the United States continue as the situation in Ukraine stays tense. We'll have the latest there. Topping World Watch, at least 30 homes have been consumed in a fire in the city of Ukiwe, Chile. According to authorities, the streets where the fire occurred are very narrow, which complicates the work of the firefighters. The mayor of Iquique told CNN Chile that the causes of the fire are still unknown, and at the moment, there are no injured people. Argentina is working to vaccinate more of its population. Several schools have become vaccination centers in Buenos Aires. The country is facing record COVID-19 infections amid the Omicron surge. And Mexico's president, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, announced on his Twitter account that he has tested positive for COVID-19. Obrador said he only has mild symptoms and will remain in isolation, adding that he will work virtually until he recovers. And Mexican authorities say the flight situation in Mexico City is getting back to normal. This after the cancellation of hundreds of flights due to staffing shortages, derived from the high number of COVID-19 infections among airline personnel. Last night, the U.S. ambassador to the UN is warning if Russia chooses the path of conflict in Ukraine, the U.S. and its allies are prepared to impose enormous cost on Russia's economy. The U.S. and Russia today began talks aimed at de-escalating the crisis, while Ukrainian troops tell CBS's Holly Williams they're ready for battle.
In freezing conditions, we trekked along Ukraine's front line. With training and arms from America, they're fighting Russian-backed separatists. More than 14,000 people have been reported killed. Now there are fears of a Russian invasion.
All my soldiers in this time ready for battle.
You're all ready to die,
Yes.
to save Ukraine
Yes.
from a Russian invasion. Some believe a Russian ground invasion, moving in tanks and artillery, is unlikely until the ground here freezes over. But here in the trenches, they've told us it could happen at any time.
Today in Geneva, Russian officials claimed they have no plans for attack, despite the massive military buildup. The US side told them to return the troops to barracks or explain what they're doing there. But some here believe Russia's President Vladimir Putin is deliberately ratcheting up tensions to extract concessions from the US and its allies.
I think that Putin is blackmailing President Biden. He's blackmailing other Western leaders because he thinks they can be fooled in this game.
So it's down here.
In Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, they've renovated old bomb shelters in case of attack.
It's a manually operated air filtration system.
This one was built during the Cold War. Now the West and Russia are again at loggerheads.
Holly Williams, CBS News.
Russia is demanding security guarantees in return for defusing the crisis. Senior State Department official said last night that troop deployments and NATO membership are not up for discussion. That's a look at some of your biggest headlines from around the world. Let's toss it over to Michael for our something to talk about.
On a happier note, hey, I want to bring you back into this because what we're talking about on the KOAM News Now Facebook page, our specific question is not the most famous person you've ever met. It's the coolest person you've ever met. And because you've had the opportunity to work around a number of people because of your profession and whatnot, if I gave you the choice of athlete, movie/TV star, musician, or writer, what would you pick?
I guess you would say a writer/TV celebrity. But that wasn't an option, so I guess I'd go with writer.
Okay.
My visit with Brian Williams was really cool.
I knew you'd have a great story. I knew that you'd have a cool story about that. That's why I'm sorry to put you on the spot like that. That was not scripted.
He watched
folks.
me anchor a newscast. That was really cool.
Yeah, that's kind of hard to beat. Not gonna lie to you about that.
Like in the studio, standing there.
Well,
Made me feel nervous the entire time.
The reason that I asked Tanya that question, folks, is because Harrison Bader, Gold Glove outfielder for the St. Louis Cardinals, I think he finished like 5th of Rookie of the Year a couple years ago too. Anyway, he showed up to teach PE class at a Missouri elementary school. That's right. Straight out of St. Louis Cardinals and straight to your elementary school kiddos. And so that prompted us to ask this question. Coolest person you've ever met. And 33% of you right now go with musician, but We do want to point out 45% leaning toward the other category. But we gave you kind of a laundry list there as far as famous professions that you can choose from. You can join us each and every morning. Connect to us via our Facebook page, KOAM News Now, or directly to the poll, koamnewsnow.com/vote. We'll be back with the news you need to know before you head out the door right after this.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. Joplin man is in custody after being accused of killing his teenage daughter. Authorities say Todd Mays shot and killed his 17-year-old daughter during a disturbance at their home on Connor Avenue. Officers on Sunday responded to a call about someone being shot and found the 17-year-old. She was taken to the hospital in critical condition, but passed away yesterday morning. Police arrested Mays at the scene. He's charged with first-degree murder and armed criminal action. A Jasper, Missouri man is dead after a fiery crash in Joplin. Friday, just before 5, Joplin police responded to a disturbance call at the library. No one was charged or arrested, but police say one of the people involved, David Pulsifer, drove away, eventually hitting a pole around 20th and Range Line. The car caught fire. Pulsifer died at the scene. Joplin police say they are still investigating the crash. Last night, there was a crash that happened on I-44, and the Missouri Highway Patrol has released more details on it. The Missouri Highway Patrol says the crash involved 4 trucks. It started when the driver of a Freightliner rear-ended another truck, starting a chain reaction with 2 more trucks. The drivers were from Brooklyn, New York, Chicago, and Kansas City. Authorities reported moderate injuries, but everyone is expected to survive. Wow. Well, a building fire in Miami, Oklahoma created so much smoke it could be seen dozens of miles away. Firefighters responded to calls about the fire a little after 9:30 Monday morning and found the old boater float building engulfed in flames. 10 minutes after they arrived, the front wall collapsed. The building has been vacant for a while, but a friend of the owner says the power was turned on again last week. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Tanya Daily Almanac on this January 11th would put our average high at about 44 degrees. We'll be 10 degrees above that, despite the fact that we begin our Tuesday morning with temperatures right at, if not, just a little bit below the freezing mark. Joplin sitting right now at 30 to 31 degrees, but clear skies indicating a whole bunch of sunshine after sunrise at 7:32 is going to warm us up and do so relatively quick up into the 50s, not only for today, but we'll be able to ride that all the way to Friday. Friday evening, pick up a little rainfall that's going to be much needed. Carry us into Saturday. Cold front, though, going to put a little January chill in the air for Saturday and Sunday. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News right after this.
Hey, Dad. You ready? Well, it's not a sight you see every day. A pair of fuzzy alpacas running down the street. It happened in California, and the father and son pair of alpacas had quite the adventure. Dion Lim shows us how the community came together to get them back home.
Come on, buddy. I'm gonna put your harness on.
As if trying to corral your pet alpacas in the backyard of your Oakland Hills home wasn't challenging enough.
It'll just take 5 minutes. They won't hurt you.
Imagine the much longer ordeal Tobias Raday and his daughter Audrey went through.
Try to get him to come down the hill.
When this happened.
Oh, look at them.
10-year-old Boogie.
Boogie is the brown one.
And his 3-year-old son Woogie.
The white one.
Had decided to go on the ultimate adventure Saturday morning.
We left a gate unlocked in our backyard from a hike the night before. They just shot up the hill and they're really fast. And in the morning, we're having our coffee, and I saw them on the hillside in the park.
The dynamic duo proceeded to zigzag through nearby Noland Park, dashing under a 580 underpass and into a nearby neighborhood, known for more suburban creatures.
So I was really concerned for their safety, primarily. And then also motorist safety.
Aaliyah Walker and her brother just happened to be driving on 109th Avenue.
I was so surprised.
And started recording.
It's like the zoo came to me.
Dad Daryl posted it to Nextdoor to spread the word.
Wait, I got like 3,100 and some people have viewed this. It's amazing. I said, tell Jimmy Kimmel we want to come on.
And online users, some thinking Boogie and Woogie had escaped from the zoo, came out in droves to assist.
Neighbors, friends, Oakland Animal Control was really helpful and really kind.
Ultimately, after traveling 4 miles for more than 2 hours, a neighbor corralled the unharmed father-son duo with a rope.
They're hard to catch. That was just ridiculous. I mean, these guys had a great day.
It was a good day for the East Oakland community as well.
Our national narrative is about some of the challenges we face here, but really come together, and people care about people here, and they also care about alpacas.
Who came together.
Let's go this way, thank you.
And made some new furry friends.
Wow, they're great.
What's not to love there? Oh, so cute. We'll be right back with another look at weather after this.
5:57 as we roll weather on the 7s on this Tuesday morning. Live look over a quiet 7th and Range line where we sit right now at 33 degrees at Joplin Regional Airport. 32 right there at the intersection, 26 in Parsons. Let's go 24. A little bit of a chill down there in Anderson and Miami. 1 degree cooler, only at 23, but still 15 degrees warmer than what we experienced at this point in time on Monday. Ridge of the jet stream beginning to flatten out a little bit, not the pronounced upside down U that we had yesterday, but eventually moving this way over us. And as it does, that means beautiful blue skies, a whole lot of sunshine, and abnormally warm January temperatures as we'll be up in the mid-50s today. Do want to point out that south wind going to pick up to about 20 miles per hour later on, and even after sunset, really doesn't die down too much. We'll keep it at 10 to 15 miles per hour. A 7-day forecast with a whole lot of sunshine and temps that stay in the 50s all the way into Friday. Friday evening bringing us some much needed rain as we push into the weekend. Little bit of a cold front taking us back down to normal January temps, 40s by Saturday and Sunday.
Shop food for.
Coming up, the Joplin police charge a man with first-degree murder in the shooting death of his 17-year-old daughter.
Now that cold Canadian air is moving its way toward the northeastern section of the United States, we are in store for a warm middle of the week. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
Also, the city of Joplin looks for contingency plans if staffing shortages affect services.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 6 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment. But first, Michael Hayslip has a check of your forecast.
It has been fun to watch the jet stream, Tanya. Let me geek out here for just a little bit because we had the pronounced ridge of the jet stream yesterday, the ridge, that upside down U that was right here, but now we're seeing that flatten out a little bit. What's happened though is this cold Canadian air now whipping its way from the Great Lakes all the way to the northeastern portion of the United States. We had those arrows that were directly coming through us. That's why we had temperatures that were down into the teens yesterday. But even with the flattening right here, it'll still continue to move to the east above us, and that's going to bring us some warm January temperatures. A whole bunch of sunshine, great start. Not a cloud in the sky, no worry about any precipitation to the point where when we get to Friday evening, we're actually going to want some of that rain to come in. Right at, if not, a touch below or above the freezing point. We are throwing up still some 23s there in Miami. We've seen Anderson bump up to 27. Joplin sitting at 33. So not a wide variety of temperatures, and in some places as much as a 15-degree increase from what we were yesterday. Whole bunch of sunshine for the afternoon hours, lift us up into the mid-50s, hard to beat. And our afternoon planner, do want to point out our winds gusting up to 20 miles per hour, even after sunset tonight, still rolling about that 10 to 15 mile variety. Now, as we work through the 7-day forecast, we'll be able to maintain the 50s all the way into Friday. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit blustery. I think the most important thing, Tanya, is to talk about the elevated fire risk because our humidity each afternoon dropping down to about 30%.
I'm liking the warmer temperatures then. All right, thanks, Michael. KBI, Larned Police Department, and Pawnee County Sheriff's Office have released an update to the murders that happened in Larned, Kansas. Investigation concluded that John Smith arrived at 524 Park Street just after 3 a.m. on Saturday and entered the house alone carrying a shotgun. He proceeded to kill Shayla and Carver before killing himself. It was ruled a double murder-suicide. Well, police in Arma, Kansas arrest a woman who they say stabbed a man. Police and EMS responded to the scene where they found the man alive but suffered from multiple stab wounds. The man claimed his girlfriend, Kristen Kramer, stabbed him with a kitchen knife. Kramer was arrested on scene. Kramer is being charged with attempted murder in the 2nd degree alongside aggravated battery with a deadly weapon. A Joplin man is in custody after being accused of killing his teenage daughter. Authorities say Todd Mays shot and killed his 17-year-old daughter during a disturbance at their home on Connor Avenue. Officers on Sunday responded to a call about someone being shot and found the 17-year-old. She was taken to the hospital in critical condition, but passed away yesterday morning. Police arrested Mays at the scene. He is charged with first-degree murder and armed criminal action. A building fire in Miami, Oklahoma created so much smoke it could be seen dozens of miles away. Firefighters responded to calls about the fire a little after 9:30 Monday morning. Found the old boat or float building engulfed in flames. 10 minutes after they arrived, the front wall collapsed. The building has been vacant for a while, but a friend of the owner says the power was turned on again last week. And a Jasper, Missouri man is dead after a fiery crash in Joplin. Friday, just before 5, Joplin police responded to a disturbance call at the library. No one was charged or arrested, but police say one of the people involved, David Pulsifer, drove away, eventually hitting a pole around 20th and Rangeline. The car caught fire. Pulsifer died at the scene. Joplin police say they are still investigating the crash. Last night, there was a crash that happened on I-44. The Missouri Highway Patrol has released more details on it. Missouri Highway Patrol says the crash involved 4 trucks. It started when the driver of a Freightliner rear-ended another truck, starting a chain reaction with 2 more trucks. The drivers were from Brooklyn, New York, Chicago, and Kansas City. Authorities reported moderate injuries, but everyone is expected to survive. The city of Joplin is working on contingency plans in the event they have to reduce transit services because of staffing issues. Officials are considering 4 options. The first would reduce maps from 6 routes per day to 3. Second option would reduce it to 4 routes per day and shorten hours. Another would reduce maps to 3 routes and condense the trolley system to 2 routes. And the fourth option would eliminate the trolley service completely, keep maps at 6 routes per day.
It's difficult to find employees to fill all of our open positions. We've got a lot of opportunities here at the city of Joplin, and so one of the things that we do if we're not able to meet the services or have adequate staffing, we have to make contingency plans.
City will host 2 public meetings about the proposed plans on January 27th if they are not staffed by then. Well, the IRS will begin accepting 2021 individual income tax returns on January 24th. Administration officials are already warning of a frustrating season as the agency grapples with a backlog of returns from previous years. The IRS commissioner says the agency will do everything possible with the resources available. The tax filing season will end on April 18th this year for most people, rather than the usual deadline of April 15th, because that's when Emancipation Day will be observed in Washington, D.C. 6:07.
So I'm going to ask the question, I know I'm not trying to put you on the spot here, because I don't expect you to have the answer. You say that they're going to start accepting returns January the 24th? Is that right?
For last year, yeah.
Right. So what if you, I'm just saying, what if you're way more responsible than me? What if you send it in before then? Does it just
sits there?
It sits there. Okay. It's not that it's going to be rejected. It just sits on the desk.
I know most WTs are available now, so.
That's what I was thinking about. Yeah, people may be chomping at the bit right now saying, hey, I want to go ahead and get this in. So there you go, folks. If you're uber responsible and get it in, I guess it sits in a box. Okay. 7-day forecast with sunshine, breezy today, coming in from the south, 20 miles an hour, gusting about 20 to 25. But we're able to ride the 50s all the way until Friday. Remember, Friday night, a little bit of a cold front works in that'll drop us into the high 30s, low 40s for Saturday and Sunday.
That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, the SEK Humane Society stops by to make a pet connection and tell us what's new at the shelter. Plus, COVID cases are spiking, especially in children. We'll have how pediatric hospitals say you can help keep hospitalizations down. And there's a growing number of puppy scams thanks to the pandemic. We'll have tips on how to keep yourself safe from getting scammed. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
Ticks and toes.
In Consumer Watch this morning, the Better Business Bureau says online pet scams continue to be a problem during the pandemic. Anthony Pura has more on how to protect yourself.
2 years after Ashley Brown's dog Maddox passed away, she decided it was time to get another Doberman. My family, they always send me links to different breeders.
Brown fell in love with a puppy she saw on a website called James Doberman. She reached out to the site's contact page and then exchanged several text messages, and she says eventually paid nearly $3,000 to have the puppy shipped. But the dog never arrived.
We showed up at the airport and he wasn't there. We had went out and bought new bedding, new crates, all kinds of new toys.
Brown showed us screenshots of 4 different payments she says she made with credit cards and a payment app for the dog and shipping. We reached out to the website and were told in a series of emails that she never sent such amounts of money and that James Doberman is no scam.
I followed up with them like once a week for probably 3 or 4 weeks, asking again for my refund, but I obviously didn't get it.
Pet scams exploded during the pandemic. Reports filed with the Better Business Bureau show the amount of money Americans lost tripled in 2020 compared to the previous year. What would be a major red flag?
There's no obvious red flags in these.
The BBB's Steve Baker says there are ways to make sure the puppy is real.
Ask the seller to do some sort of video conference, Zoom or something like that, holding the puppy.
Check petscams.com, which offers a list of potentially fake sites, and do an image search of the pet promised. We found the same picture of the puppy Brown wanted on another breeder's Facebook page posted a year and a half ago.
I don't think I would purchase one online. I think I would always go there in person.
Brown plans to continue her search, hoping to get another dog like Maddox. Anthony Pura, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Wall Street was mixed on Monday. The Dow dropped 162 points. The Nasdaq added 6. The S&P 500 fell 6. Second Starbucks store in Buffalo, New York is now unionized. Employees voted in December, but the results were on hold while several ballots were being challenged. The National Labor Relations Board eventually tossed some ballots from employees that did not work at that store, giving the union a 15-9 victory. Baristas at Starbucks locations in at least 7 other cities have said since last fall that they also want to unionize. U.S. greenhouse gases rose 6.2% in 2021, and that's according to an estimate by the Rhodium Group, an independent research provider. It's a reversal after emissions fell more than 10% in 2020 when the world shut down at the start of the pandemic. Group says coal plants and road transportation, primarily trucking, saw the biggest jumps in emissions. Facebook is delaying its return to the office until March 28th and will require employees to have a booster shot. Parent company Meta Platforms says the delay gives its staff a chance to figure out their work arrangements. Social media giant previously planned to bring employees back at the end of this month. That's it for Consumer Watch. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We've got Jasmine Kyle here from the SEK Humane Society with a big furry friend.
Oh, yeah. So this is Mason, and as you can see, I can lean up on him. He is a giant dog, and we usually don't get this breed. So Mason is a Great Dane Greyhound mix.
Okay.
He is a gentle, loving giant, and you would think that, oh my gosh, this dog kids can ride on. He's very active, you know, and very loud. No, that's not Mason, or his brother Dixon for that matter. They're actually very timid and shy when they don't know what's going on. But when they get comfortable, they will like jump in the air on all little fours and go on walks and parades. They've been to USD 250 school education events with the kids and with the family center. So these boys do great with families. Absolutely fantastic.
Okay, so they have a little bit of a story with you guys.
Yeah, so originally we had them 3 years ago when they were just puppies. We didn't even know they were Great Danes back then until we saw those big giant baby paws. And then they were adopted out together, which we absolutely love, especially with the bigger dogs if they can take a sibling. A year and a half down the road, unfortunately, they were returned from the family, had to move and couldn't take them. Brothers were adopted out successfully again, and now a year and a half down the road, family had some actual dire medical emergencies, so we took the brothers back in again. But we do have an adoption event this Saturday at PetSense Pittsburgh from 11 to 2, and we do plan to bring these boys to the event.
Obviously, I think your goal, they've been together this long, would be to adopt them out together again.
We would love that. We know it's hard for these larger dogs just because they take up so much space, but these boys have been together since birth, literally from 2 separate households for 3 years now. we would love if they could find a home together. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well.
But right now we have lots of dogs that are available. Last night we just had to make an emergency post because we are at full capacity.
Really?
All of our kennels are full. We're even keeping puppies and dogs in the lobbies and in our front entry rooms now. It is getting dire. We cannot literally intake because there is not a single space left. We've gone to our office rooms, everything right now. And a majority of our dogs are still sponsored. Those sponsorships carry into 2022. So when you see a dog that's sponsored, it means that dog has no adoption fee. And most of our animals, whether that's cats or dogs, we offer foster to adopt trials for. So if you have been in consideration of adopting, now is the perfect time because you're saving 2 lives. One, for that new forever buddy that you're taking home, and then the second for that animal taking their space, because we are and proudly a no-kill shelter, meaning that no matter the time limit, we're going to take care of them, get them the help and medical care they need, and find them that home.
All right. I think he wants to take a seat with you.
Yes.
Sure. Yes, you do. What a beautiful dog.
He is.
Okay, so do you guys have a lot of large dogs there at the shelter as
We
well?
have a lot of lab mixes, boxer mixes. Now again, we usually don't get this size. It seems like in the fall and winter, a lot of people were wanting tiny dogs. And that's something that we've seen a shift in is tiny is equal toy breed, and that's not a small dog. We, as an animal shelter, we're not breeders. We are getting animals that are found out in countrysides with families that have medical emergencies, passed away, and that type of stuff. So for the most part, 80 to 90% of the dogs that we have are on the larger side with boxers, lab mix. Now, we do have smaller dogs right now, and it comes with a very long story. We assisted the Department of Agriculture with an illegal puppy mill last year in 2022. It was horrific, I will say the least. These dogs were stacked up in a barn, and by this wire mesh carriers, like inventory. These dogs were moved around with sticks to be bred, and they were separated, when they were very, very young. When we got these dogs in, they didn't even know what grass was. They had never touched a blanket in their life. It took them a month to not sleep upright because they thought that blanket was going to hurt them. So for the past 6 months, even when we first got them, we had to wear Kevlar bite gloves. These dogs had never been handled. They were so desocialized with humans and themselves that they didn't even know what they were at that point, that they could find their own happiness and play or anything. So God bless our staff because they have worked their heinies off to get these dogs to where they are, to one giving birth at our shelter, to 5 puppies, and those puppies never ever got to experience that kind of treatment.
That's wonderful.
But right now we are getting to the point where the adults are ready. So we have a few candidates that we are offering long-term foster to adopt, where every month we check in with how things are going. But for these dogs, we do want to remind the public that they, again, have never been inside of a household, ever. So it is going to take some time for them to get readjusted to a TV, to carpet, to tile.
And these are the smaller dogs?
Yes, they are Chihuahua Terrier mixes ranging from 2 to 5 years. By this. I mean, if you've been looking for a tiny, small dog, we do finally have them, but they're going to come with some time and love. Now, with being a foster for us, we supply everything. We'll do food, we'll do toys, everything. You supply the time and love, we'll supply everything else, because these are what these dogs desperately need, is a foster home to get them, to get them up to date on what a loving family household is.
Okay, well, Jasmine, I have a lot more to talk with you about, and if you're willing to stick around for our Fox show, we'd love to have you. But for now, we're going to head over to break. Say goodbye, Mason. Bye. We'll be right back. Topping Health Watch this morning, there's been a massive jump in pediatric hospital admissions for COVID in recent weeks. In just the last 7 days, the CDC says an average of 824 children a day were admitted for the disease. Those numbers include kids who were in the hospital for other reasons and then tested positive. Janet Chameleon is at Texas Children's Hospital, where there's a surge in kids going to the ICU with COVID.
This is Jamestown Rogers on Christmas Day. This is the 2-year-old now, recently diagnosed with leukemia and fighting COVID in the intensive care unit of Texas Children's Hospital.
It was devastating, but it just seems like everybody have it.
Jamisha Kelly says she became alarmed when her son started having trouble breathing.
It had to be nerve-wracking for you.
Beyond nerve-wracking because he can't tell me what's going on.
COVID cases are soaring here.
It's exceeded our previous peaks, and right now we don't necessarily see light at the end of our tunnel yet.
Dr. Lara Shekademian is chief of critical care.
It's difficult. We see healthy children come in ill, and we see children with other comorbidities, as we call them, get very ill as well.
Doctor, have you had to intubate children?
Yes, we have.
Jamestown is not on a respirator, and his mom says he's improving. The CDC says children with health conditions like cancer are more susceptible to complications from the virus.
What does he understand about what's going on?
I'm sure he don't understand anything. Just ready to go home. Keep pointing to the door.
But in some of these rooms, going home isn't an option as children fight for their lives. Doctors say of those here who are vaccine eligible, almost all are unvaccinated. Nationwide, the CDC says just over half of children 12 to 18 years old are fully vaccinated, and only 16% of those 5 to 11.
I can tell you with certainty that vaccinated children do not get critically ill from COVID and end up in the ICU.
The latest numbers from the hospital are troubling. More than 75 children are hospitalized with COVID. Some are on respirators. About a dozen of the infected are babies. Janet Shamlian, CBS News, Houston.
Doctors say as more kids get COVID, they need to focus on those who are the sickest. But that's increasingly difficult because parents are bringing children without severe symptoms to hospitals for testing. Hospitals are asking people to go to a pediatrician or urgent care instead. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
A lot of sunshine for our Tuesday and temperatures up into the mid-50s. A tad bit breezy come in from the south, 15 to 25 miles per hour. More KOAM Morning News right after this.
Every life in the 4 years.
Coming up, the Joplin police charge a man with first-degree murder in the shooting death of his 17-year-old daughter.
Now, we're not going to quite get to this number that'll set a record, but we're going to be well above our average high for the month of January. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
Also, the city of Joplin looks for contingency plans if staffing shortages affect services.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 6:30. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment. But first, Michael Hayslip is joining us with our January forecast.
Yeah, Tanya, we were talking about that record dates back to 1911 where we got up to 76 degrees. No, we're not even going to come close to that. But I tell you what, that average high of 44, that will be a thing of the distant past, not only for today, but all the way into the weekend. The jet stream now taking the cold Canadian air, kind of whipping it over the Great Lakes, headed toward the northeastern section of the United States. So the Midwest in store for a nice little warm up. Whole bunch of blue sky and sunshine is what we'll have as the Skywatch storm tracker is void of any cloud cover. Sunrise at 7:32, then we begin our jaunt up. Temperatures right now kind of ranging in between about 23 and 33 degrees. So yes, we are seeing places that are still below the freezing mark, but this will be the last time that we do that because after topping out in the 50s today, our overnight lows for the rest of the week will really stay high 30s for the most part. Afternoon planner, we're going to gust up to 20 miles per hour. So not only the low humidity, but also the high wind, elevated fire risk. I know, Hayslip, bang your drum, that's what I have to do. But once again, if you're hanging on to that Christmas tree, Tanya was telling us yesterday about the opportunities that we have for our cities that are, opening up brush piles. Take advantage of that. Don't try to do it by yourself, please, because it is going to be very, very dry this entire week until we get to Friday. Friday night, we get a little rain. It will be much needed. Brings in a cold front for the weekend, so get out and enjoy a marvelous Tuesday, really through Friday afternoon.
All right, sounds good. Joplin police arrest a man accused of killing his teenage daughter. He's now charged with murder. Authorities say Todd Mays shot and killed his 17-year-old daughter during a disturbance at their home on Connor Avenue. Officers on Sunday responded to a call about someone being shot and found the 17-year-old. She was taken to the hospital in critical condition but passed away yesterday morning. Police arrested Mays at the scene. He is charged with first-degree murder and armed criminal action. City of Joplin is working on contingency plans. In the event they have to reduce transit services because of staffing issues. Officials are considering 4 options. The first would reduce maps from 6 routes per day to 3. The second option would reduce it to 4 routes per day and shorten hours. Another would reduce maps to 3 routes and condense the trolley system to 2 routes. And the fourth option would eliminate the trolley service completely and keep maps at 6 routes per day.
It's difficult to find employees to fill all of our open positions. We've got a lot of opportunities here at the City of Joplin, and so one of the things that we do if we're not able to meet the services or have adequate staffing, we have to make contingency plans.
The city will host 2 public meetings about the proposed plans on January 27th if they are not staffed by then. Christmas cleanup reveals a big problem at a popular Kansas light show. Isaac French has the story.
The Cortez Holiday Light Show has brought Christmas cheer to Topekans for more than a decade. After the end of another successful season, the family was cleaning up Saturday morning when they discovered something unusual.
As this morning, my dad was starting to take down some of the lights, just get them inside since it was warmer out. He noticed that on one of the trees, there were 3 controllers that are like black and charred and burned. Actually, one's completely destroyed. It's not even there anymore. It's just burnt away.
Louis Cortez went back to check his security camera, where he watched thousands of dollars worth of equipment go up in smoke.
So I played back our security cameras and saw that it happened on the 4th around 7:40. There's a tiny spark in one of the plugs, and it just caught the cables and just started a fire.
Cortez then came to a heartbreaking realization.
The first thing I thought is I'm not going to be able to do the show this year because I just knew from the pictures my dad sent me and just watching the security cameras that it was a lot of damage.
He says fixing the damage would far exceed his yearly budget for the display. So the Cortez Family Light Show may have to take a little break. A GoFundMe has since been set up for the Holiday Light Show. And Cortez says with enough support, they may be able to bring the tradition back in time for Christmas.
Just seeing that people are upset and they want to help the show, it really makes me feel better because people do want to see the show. It's something they enjoy. It's something they plan to see every year. And I just really appreciate the support that people are giving me.
Again, that was Isaac French reporting. Here's Michael with the latest look at your forecast.
Whole bunch of sunshine today, get up into the 50s. So considering where we are now as we hover right around the freezing point, nice 25-degree increase. Ride the sunshine all the way into Thursday. Friday, the clouds begin to increase. Pick up a little rain Friday evening into Saturday morning. Chillier temperatures over the weekend as well, as we'll be looking at high 30s and then 40s. And I think the big thing, Tanya, though, is those overnight lows. Look at that. We get to enjoy above the freezing point until the cold front hits, and then we're back down to the 20s over the weekend each night.
All right, that's a look at our top news stories. Coming up this half hour in the KOAM Morning News, former President Trump's lawyers are not only asking to throw out a lawsuit against him, that's from Democrats, but Capitol Police as well. Stick with us. We'll have more details on that. Plus, sometimes you meet them and sometimes you don't. Meeting a celebrity is something you don't forget. Who's the coolest person you've ever met? We let you weigh in. We'll be right back.
Sports live here.
Topping Nation Watch this morning, lawyers for former President Trump asked a federal judge to throw out a series of lawsuits from Democratic lawmakers and Capitol Police officers, all asking that the former president be held liable for the January 6th insurrection. The judge is not expected to issue a ruling right away. Skylar Henry has more from Capitol Hill.
A federal judge in Washington, D.C. heard arguments on whether 3 civil lawsuits accusing former President Donald Trump of inciting the January 6th Capitol assault can proceed. 2 cases were brought by California Congressman Eric Swalwell and a group of House Democrats led by January 6th Committee Chair Benny Thompson. Two members of the U.S. Capitol Police Force filed a third suit seeking damages for physical and emotional injuries they say they suffered from the riot.
It often is difficult to draw lines between what is said and what happens, particularly when the person who's making the statements isn't the person actually taking the actions to physically harm somebody.
Lawyers for the former president want the lawsuits dismissed, claiming he has absolute immunity.
In part, what the former president is arguing is that he can't be sued because he was president at the time, and what the statements that he was making were official acts, that they were part of his official duties.
Meanwhile, here on Capitol Hill, another key Trump ally, Congressman Jim Jordan, is refusing to cooperate with the House Select January 6th committee that's investigating the attack on the U.S. Capitol. The committee asked for a voluntary meeting last month, calling the Ohio Republican a material witness, given his direct contacts with former President Trump on January 6th. In a letter, Mr. Jordan wrote he has no confidence that the Select Committee will fairly or accurately represent any information he could provide. A committee spokesperson accused the congressman of trying to hide the facts and says the panel will consider appropriate next steps in the coming days. Skyler Henry, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Former President Donald Trump says he will address the House Committee's January 6th investigation during an Arizona rally planned for this coming Saturday. Authorities in New Hampshire continue to search for clues in the 2019 disappearance of a young girl. Manchester police detectives and federal investigators searched the backyard of the family home on Monday. Police say Harmony Montgomery was not reported missing until very recently. Her father, Adam Montgomery, is being held without bail on felony assault charges against Harmony from 2019, only months before she was last seen. Montgomery's estranged wife, Kayla, is also facing charges of welfare fraud. A reward is being offered for leads in the case. 3 children were saved from an icy pond in Colorado on Monday thanks to some brave bystanders. The children were playing on this pond in Arapahoe County when they fell through the ice. A woman saw it all happen through her kitchen window and rushed to help. A teenage cousin of the kids also jumped in. All 3 were pulled from the water, but one child, a 6-year-old girl, was not breathing. EMTs were able to revive her. She is hospitalized in serious condition and is expected to survive. Convicted murderer Robert Durst has died. Durst died Monday in a California medical facility while serving a life sentence. The Department of Corrections says he died from natural causes. Durst was a real estate mogul who was convicted last September of shooting and killing his longtime friend, Susan Berman. Prosecutors say Durst killed Berman because she was going to tell investigators he had killed and disposed of the body of his wife, Kathleen Durst, who has been missing since 1982. Durst was already in poor health, but his condition declined further after his conviction when he contracted COVID and was put on a ventilator. He was also suspected of shooting and killing his neighbor Morris Black in 2001, but was acquitted 2 years later. Durst apparently confessed to all the murders in the HBO docuseries The Jinx. Durst was 78 years old. Well, today, President Biden and Vice President Harris are heading to Georgia to advocate for voting rights. Some voting rights advocates are dismissing the visit as a photo op and are urging the president and VP to stay in D.C. to break gridlock over new voting legislation. CBS News' Laura Podesta has the latest on the battle ahead for those potential new rules.
The Commander-in-Chief and VP head south today to send a message about the future of America's democracy. Speaking in Atlanta, Biden and Harris are expected to push for passing federal voting rights legislation by next Monday's Martin Luther King Jr. holiday.
The president will forcefully advocate for protecting the most bedrock American rights.
The measures include national election standards, a national voter ID standard, same-day voting registration, and reducing big money in politics. Democrats are also hoping to pass a key tenet of the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, which forces states with a history of discrimination to clear any potential changes to election laws with the Justice Department. Many Republicans oppose more federal power over elections.
They've created a false narrative that somehow states in 2020 and in the past couple election cycles that are not capable of running a fair election. The day that you take power away from states to run federal elections is the day that America fundamentally changes in terms of how you vote.
President Biden has suggested he'd be open to changing Senate rules to allow bills to pass with a simple majority, a change that worries some Democrats.
We just need to be very cautious what we do. I'm hoping that we can come to an agreement to fix things. Every American has a right to vote and should be protected.
According to the Brennan Center for Justice, last year 19 states, most of them Republican-led, passed laws that make it more difficult to vote. Laura Podesta, CBS News.
President Biden and VP Harris are also planning to lay a wreath at the burial place of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and pay a visit to the historic Ebenezer Baptist Church, where Dr. King served as co-pastor. That's a look at today's top national stories. Let's check back in with Michael for our Something to Talk About.
Tanya, I'm going to rope you back into this here.
Okay.
Because today, our Something to Talk About on our, excuse me, on our Facebook page and our Insta poll is famous people. I found it interesting on a CNN story that I was reading this morning, and I want to quote it here. They refer to Bob Saget as the star of Fuller House.
You mean Full House? And he
That's
was
that was kind of what caught me off guard there is when I read that line. But I guess too you cater to.
Yeah, that would be Candace Cameron as the star of Fuller House.
Yeah, that's what I thought was weird. Maybe catering, trying to.
He made some appearances.
For people that may be more familiar with Fuller House than Full House. Was he? Now you have to forgive my ignorance because I never watched Fuller House. He was a part of that, correct?
Yeah, well, they still lived in the same house, and he would come back and visit.
Got it, but he was not like he was
not in every episode.
Did not know that. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I found
appearances.
I found that interesting. Is that's how.
In fact, everybody made appearances except for the twins. Well, Michelle. And then as an adult, like that character is the only one that never came back.
I have this affinity for Bob Saget because when I was younger, people often said that I looked like him, and well, this is back when I had dark hair, and it was not somebody I wanted to look like, perhaps. And then I actually saw him perform one time, and I'm like, I want to be that guy, just because he's so talented and funny. Our question to you this morning, who's the coolest person that you've ever met? And we came up with a number of different categories, if you will, but 53% of you say the coolest person you've ever met doesn't necessarily meet one of those categories, and went with the other. 18% say athlete, and 53% of you, I was thinking about it, maybe one of the coolest people I've ever met. I was thinking, it might be my mom, my dad, or one of my kids, and so I completely understand going with that other category. Doesn't necessarily have to be somebody famous, but we appreciate your engagement each and every morning. A couple ways to connect with us. Our Facebook page, KOAM News Now. You can go directly to the poll, koamnewsnow.com/vote, or if you've got your phone handy, we have a QR code. And so if you'll snap a picture of that code with your phone, it will deliver you to the poll each and every morning. Now, before we come back and celebrate birthdays and anniversaries, I want to check in with Tony, who's in New York.
I'm Tony DeCopo. Coming up on CBS Mornings, we look at medical and legislative efforts to protect children from gun injury and death, plus hear from parents whose sons were killed with unsecured firearms. That's coming up on CBS Mornings.
We take this time to honor today's four-state hero, Travis Faulkner, a member of the U.S. Air Force. His hometown, Joplin, Missouri. We thank you, Senior Airman Travis Faulkner, today's four-state hero.
Hattie Lehman's going to get us started. Hattie's celebrating her 4th birthday, and what a gorgeous picture that is right there. Check out that bow. That is fit for a queen. Miss Lehman is celebrating in the knack.
All right, Remy Wyrick turning 6 years old this year. What a cutie there in Seneca, with birthday love wishes coming from Mom, Dad, Papa, and Nana.
Speaking of birthday wishes, this one comes with love from the whole family for a new teenager. It is Grace Collins. And Grace, a very happy 13th birthday to you. She is celebrating in Nevada.
All right, and we got Mashia Schultz, turning 39 years old this year. Mashia is our neighbor in Crestline.
Let's run out to Mustang Country because in Iola is where Stephanie Loving is celebrating her 51st birthday. Miss Loving, a very happy birthday to you.
All right, our birthday list goes on. Tina Carter turning 2 years old this year in Iola. Gunnar Mingarelli celebrating birthday number 11 in Pittsburgh. And in Columbus, Colt Ungeheyer celebrating birthday number 17.
A happy birthday and happy anniversary to all on this January 11th. This is where you can submit them to. Birthdays at KOAMTV.com, or you can also go to our website, which is KOAMNewsNow.com. Speaking of that vaunted website, here's Tanya Bach with a very important birthday announcement.
That's right. You can be a part of the KOAM Birthday Club by going to our website and signing up. And once you do, you'll get special deals from local businesses. Go to KOAMNewsNow.com and sign up for the KOAM Birthday Club today.
Tell you what, when we flip on over to Fox 14, we got a nail biter for you. Get this. Man crashes a plane onto train tracks. All right? Trains are coming. Now we're racing against time. Now we're not going to spoil it. But if you flip on over to Fox 14, you're going to see how this story ends. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News right after this.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. A Joplin man is in custody after being accused of killing his teenage daughter. Authorities say Todd Mays shot and killed his 17-year-old daughter during a disturbance at their home on Connor Avenue. Officers on Sunday responded to a call about someone being shot and found the 17-year-old. She was taken to the hospital in critical condition, but passed away yesterday morning. Police arrested Mays at the scene. He is charged with first-degree murder and armed criminal action. A Jasper, Missouri man is dead after a fiery crash in Joplin. Friday, just before 5, Joplin police responded to a disturbance call at the library. No one was charged or arrested, but police say one of the people involved, David Pulsifer, drove away, eventually hitting a pole around 20th and Rangeline. The car caught fire and Pulsifer died at the scene. Joplin police say they're still investigating the crash. Last night, there was a crash that happened on I-44, and the Missouri Highway Patrol has released more details on it. Missouri Highway Patrol says the crash involved 4 trucks. It started when the driver of a Freightliner rear-ended another truck, starting a chain reaction with 2 more trucks. The drivers were from Brooklyn, New York, Chicago, and Kansas City. Authorities reported moderate injuries, but everyone is expected to survive. A building fire in Miami, Oklahoma created so much smoke it could be seen dozens of miles away. Firefighters responded to calls about the fire a little after 9:30 Monday morning. Found the old boater float building engulfed in flames. 10 minutes after they arrived, the front wall collapsed. The building has been vacant for a while, but a friend of the owner says the power was turned on again last week. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
These temperatures lingering right at, if not just a skosh below the freezing point for our Tuesday morning, but no worries. After sunrise at 7:32, we are up and away into the mid-50s. Abnormally warm not only for today, but also all the way through the end of the work week. Good south wind and low humidity. That means elevated fire concerns, but the positive aspect of it all, look at those overnight lows as we're able to escape the freezing mark until we get to Friday night into Saturday morning.
Well, coming up today at noon, we're making brown sugar snack cake in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
We also have a new Scream sequel. Did you know that that's coming out? How many times can we redo things? Well, that's coming up on CBS Mornings. David Arquette. God bless David Arquette.
Is he going to be in it?
I'm sure he is. He's got to be. He's talking about the latest installment of the movie franchise and what it was like stepping back on the set with some of his original cast.
Yes. That'll be fun. Or you can switch on over with us on Fox 14, where your only local morning news continues. And this morning, we'll have why people are choosing pets over kids and who is up in arms over that decision. Plus, a look at what's causing controversy behind the scenes at the Golden Globes. And speaking of pets,
oh yeah,
we've got Jasmine Kyle in studio with a very big furry friend.
Somebody needs to explain to me, like, whenever I talk about David Arquette and I think about the Arquette family, I want to put Lori Petty in with the Arquettes, but I can't explain why.
Did they used
You're
to?
not, and okay, you're going to leave me on that note?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks for joining us. Do me a favor, be safe. We'll do this all again tomorrow morning.
Have a good, we'll see you at noon.
Printing services are available at the finishing touch.